when we say I want it all and only put that in the relationship box, we're doing ourselves a disservice, because there are ways to get that fairy tale feeling outside of your relationship. I'm in New York right now. I'm having a fairy tale romance with my friends. I'm like running around New York, like meeting them, just having the literal best time. I feel like I'm in a rom-com, but I'm with my friends. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, let's expand our idea of the magic of our lives outside of our relationships.
Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Turning 30 podcast, a place where we talk about what it's really like to be in your 30s. I'm your host, life coach Emma Wilson, and I'm here to help you feel better, get unstuck, and be more confident in your 30s. And this week's guest and the conversation that we had is a must listen for any of you who are dating and wanting to meet somebody. You're single in your 30s and you're wondering why the dates aren't going well. You're wondering how you can get more dates. You want to know how to use the apps better or meet people better in real life. And it's also an episode that will be really good for those of you who are in relationships, because even though today's guest is a dating expert, we also have a lot of conversation about the start of a relationship and how to navigate those more difficult communications and conversations that happen when we are first getting to know someone. And I cannot tell you how many people ask me those questions. They ask me, how do I bring up the conversation about kids? How do I see red flags or green flags? And, when is the best time to move in together? And this week's episode is going to touch upon so many important topics that I know it will be very, very valuable to all of you. And before I formally introduce the guest and we get going with the conversation, I also just wanted to share that just come off the back of a very exciting weekend. It's the end of the first week of the launch of Turning, my brand new membership community, and we had so many new members jump in over the weekend. We now have almost 60 women from all over the world who are in the membership doing this work together. And I want to invite you to come and join them and to let you know that there are only a few spots left. So for each round, for the Turning cohorts, I'm just accepting a limited number of women so that we can make sure that it really is an intimate and inclusive and supportive community. So the last spots are waiting for those of you who have been on the sidelines, wondering if, on the fence, if this is going to be the right next step for you. This is your last chance before the doors close, and we will reopen them again in a few months' time. Now, in terms of what's included in the membership, I will put more details in the show notes, but this is the space to be if you are currently going through a transitional time. So you're thinking about what's next. Maybe you've already made a big decision and now you're wanting to follow through and need support, or potentially you know that you need to make some changes in your life in order to build your next chapter. And as soon as you get inside the membership, you get full access to my signature course, The Next Chapter, which is going to help you really figure out those next parts of your life. And that is relevant no matter which stage of life you're at. So whether you're really focusing right now on dating or on building your career or potentially moving city or moving country, maybe you're thinking about your friendships, your finances. There's so many different areas of life that pivotal in this decade. So please go ahead and look up the details. And I'm also always available on Instagram at Turning30Coach to answer any of your questions and to see those of you who are going to join us inside. And the last thing I will say is just a little favor, that if you like this episode and you want to hear more like this, then please, please, please review, rate, share, and give me feedback for what you want to hear more of on the podcast, because I have huge plans for the podcast this year and I'm just really excited to bring more of these very interesting and maybe even slightly controversial topics. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce this week's guest. It's dating podcaster Talia Koren. Now, Talia has a podcast that has over 2 million downloads, and I know why people are listening to her. She is no nonsense dating advice. She really tells it how it is, and she shares so much from her personal life and tips from that she's collected over the years with dating. Now, as you will hear in the episode, she will explain to you that before she met her now husband, she made it her mission to go on as many dates as possible. And I think she went on 64 first dates with 64 different people. I might have made that number up, but it rings a bell from when we had the conversation. And she's got so many interesting theories and advice when it comes to dating in the current dating landscape. So some of the parts of the episode, I think, were me and her saying things about modern day relationships and about dating and having, you know, new relationships in your 30s that you may have never heard before. So I'm really, really curious to see what you think. I would love to hear how the episode lands with you. And let's dive into this week's episode. Hello, Talia, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Emma. I am so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you on because there's only a few people online that I follow when it comes to dating who I genuinely respect and look up to their advice. And I just think that my audience just need to hear what you have to say. It's so no nonsense dating advice, and I think it's just really important. So I'm just really grateful to have you here.
Thank you so much. I love what you do too with your podcast. It's so important.
Thank you. Okay, so I know we've spoken before this, so this is not going to be a shock question, but I saw a post on your Instagram recently that I just had to bring your answer to my audience. So your post was, is there a dating epidemic? Basically, are we all doomed in the world of dating? Which I think is such a relevant question. And I know so many of the women in my audience who have been single for a while and have burnout from using the apps and just burnout in general from dating have subscribed to this narrative that dating is basically all negative. So I would love to hear your take on this and what you have to say.
Yeah, so obviously like epidemic is a really strong word that doesn't actually apply because it like applies to like diseases and like it's just not quite the right word. I was using language from someone who messaged me, a listener who was like, are we in a dating epidemic? So I would say like it does feel like a lot of doom and gloom no matter what words you want to use. And I think that's valid. I'm not going to like sit here and tell listeners you're wrong for feeling this, you're the only one feeling this. Like no, it's valid. It can be really hard. And I think that there is a huge shift happening, which is making it harder. I think the reason we're feeling this is that our EQ and our social skills haven't caught up to the types of relationships we need today. That's why I think this is so hard right now. Think about it. Our parents, like when they were dating, it's like you find a good person to build a family with. One of you is going to be home. One of you is going to work. You're going to work together as a team. And it's all about the kids and it's all about the family, the core family unit. But now women, luckily, and men have so many different paths that are not that. So we haven't figured out how to have relationships that fit all these different paths. Like you don't have to have kids. You can get married in your 50s for the first time. You don't have to get married. You can be polyamorous. You could it's like there's so much openness and opportunity that I don't think the relationships that we need to fit today's situations have caught up.
It's such a valid point. And what comes up for me when you were speaking is that whole how these days we just expect our partner to be everything. That's really, the thing. I can't remember who's maybe I'm thinking of Jay Shetty. He says that a lot.
I think it's also Esther Perel also talks about this.
Yes, actually. And I've just been listening on Audible to her book, Dating in Captivity. And it's an amazing one. And she does say it. And it's how you expect your partner to tick all the boxes and to be your best friend and your confidant and have intimacy and hobbies together and, all of these things. And how can everyone be all of those things? Like it's impossible.
Yes. It used to just be you need to find someone who is a provider. Like if you're a woman dating men, like you're trying to find a man who's a provider, who can be a good dad, who can have a stable job, who can like be the income, who can just be the support while you're running the house as a woman. That's like the traditional thing. Now we don't have that really anymore, luckily, right? It's a good thing that we don't have to have that dynamic. That's the only option for people. We are looking for different things in partners now that are not just can they provide financially.
So that's where the gap is, and our expectations are potentially much higher. So that's what makes dating more difficult.
Yeah, because think about it, like men up till this point are like basically told all you need to do is make money, get a good job, get your shit figured out, and then you will find a woman, like a good, like, you know, and it's like, no, actually, we need you to be way more than that. You need to bring to the table way more than just stability. We need you to be empathetic, compassionate, have hobbies and interests. We need you to want to work on yourself internally, not just externally, like on your body or like how good in shape you are. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
looking for evolved men. Okay. So we want a man who we can have a conversation with, who can understand us, who can understand our anxieties, I want to say,
Right.
and also that we can understand theirs. And this term evolved man is what I hear a lot because my community and my clients have a limiting belief that is these men don't exist. And I can say, because I found one, they do exist, but
They do exist.
they do exist, right?
Yeah.
Let's say that in like bold letters. They completely exist, but are they harder to find? And that's the question.
I think that in some ways, yes, because they maybe are fewer. However, I do think that what we can do is offer grace to people. And I think a lot of women hear that and it's like, I don't want to teach a man how to do this. I don't want to be like, I don't want to be his therapist. And I'm not saying teach him how to connect with his feelings or teach him how to emote or like communicate. It's more just like having grace that maybe people are at different levels of their ability and capacity to do this, and leading by example by showing up in a relationship how you want to be treated and see who can match you there, and be willing to be open to people who at least want to learn, who at least want to
Mm.
try. My husband, for example, when I met him, had never picked up a relationship book. He'd never been to therapy. You know, he didn't really live in this world that I have lived in for like decades of like I've gone to therapy for over a decade. But the second I mentioned a relationship book, he bought it on the spot and read it. Like that is the openness I want people to look for. No, he'd never been to therapy, but before we got married, we went together. Was it his idea? No. Was he enthusiastic? No, but he did it and he actually showed up. You know, he when we were in the session, he took it seriously.
Yeah. No, I love this because I think it's something that you also speak about in your content is that we should be looking for partners not based on a checklist of what they have, but based on values. And that's a really good example of a value that somebody has. They might not be, yes, exactly the same
Yeah,
as we are, but you have shared value, which will be okay. If somebody is interested in something, then the other person is going to be open and curious and accepting of it.
100%.
So now you've mentioned your husband. You got married like
In
6 months ago
September.
in
Yeah.
September. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I would love for you to share a little bit about your journey. And you were already doing this work before you met Johnny. So I
Yes.
would love to hear a little bit about what you speak about, where you got really intentional and practical and how you went out and found him. So please, can you tell
Yeah.
us?
Sure. So, just the brief version is I got out of a long relationship at age 29, which, as you know, listeners, is a very ripe age. It's like a weird age. You're like, oh my God, is my life over? Is it just beginning? I don't know. You know?
Exactly.
And then I had done a lot of work in that relationship on myself. I had been in therapy. So I was really excited. I was just jazzed to take everything I'd learned in therapy and like try it on dating and like kind of be like, okay, what can I do when I'm not with this partner who's holding me back, who isn't on a growth journey, who's just not meeting me where I am? What will it be like when I'm meeting new people? And I can tell you right now, I went out with 64 people in 10 months. I met
Wow.
a lot of really great guys. Were they all like winners? No. Were all the dates like really amazing? No. But I don't think a boring date is a bad date. Sometimes you just don't click. And I'm not going to take that as a point towards a negative dating experience if we didn't click. It's okay. I'm not going to click with everyone. You know, you might say feel the spark, which I wasn't looking for, but I wasn't interested in everyone. That's okay. I wasn't attracted to everyone. That's okay. It doesn't mean I'm having a bad time. So I went out with like 64 people. I ended up going on over 150 dates with those people. I got in a few like 1 month, 2 month things. And then, but I wanted to be single for a year. And then after that year was up, I then met my husband. I remember that I like had just gotten out of a 1 month thing, unfortunately, which I really liked him, but it was a no for him. And then I lined up like 7 first dates, which I don't recommend. I don't recommend anyone do what I did, by the way. I'm not saying go out and date as many people as possible. Please don't do that. But I lined up 7 first dates and my husband was one of them. And I would say 2.5 months later, we were in a relationship after that. So that's how that happened.
Wow, I love that story. It's so interesting. Why do you not recommend that people do it just because it's very full on to devote so much time to dating?
It's not sustainable. It's not realistic for most people. I think I had my life was set up to fit that amount of dating into it. Also, like I'm just the kind of person where it's like, if I want something, I was ready to be single for a long time. Mentally, I had my whole life plan figured out as if I had never meet anyone. And I'm still ready for that, by the way. If something happened to my marriage, I would be okay. I'd be sad, but I'd be fully okay in my life. So it's just not sustainable. That's really the end of the story. I would say if you go on one first date a month, that's amazing. That's a great cadence to have, like to aim for.
I actually want to share that I really resonate with your version of dating, because I definitely didn't go on that many first dates, but I think I was single for 2 years in between a relationship where very similar. I didn't have growth. I did a lot of work on myself. I had a partner who was very avoidant and very not interested in anything about this psychology or my job, which was coaching or moving forward or
Right.
commitment to any of those things that you need. And yeah, so I had 2 years, and I think that most of my single friends would look at me and say, oh my God, Emma, she is a serial dater, because to them, they would go on one first date a month and that would be normal. And I would go on probably one a week, if not two a week. But I think with some chunks of time taken up because I was traveling and living abroad, I probably went on more than 50 dates
Yeah.
50 first dates during that time. So I definitely think that there's something in it for me, and it works for me to have options, and it worked for me. I'm somebody who I did enjoy dating, even though
Yes.
there were low points, don't get me wrong, and there was lots of
Right.
rejection and lots of shit within there, but there was something really fun about meeting new people. And I was living alone, and it was also the lockdown for me at this time, so I used to meet guys on a date, and it was never like a fancy date. And I'm a huge fan of a dog park date, or just grabbing a coffee, or even I was living next to a park and I would just be like, oh, come and walk the dog around the park with me. And I just kept everything really low key, and that was my way of just meeting new people. And
Yes.
yeah, some of them, I do have some funny stories, but most of them were just mediocre, and then some nice dates as well. And I think it's a really good approach to dating, actually. Like I
Yeah.
know that some people don't have it, and I think maybe it's different for us. Let's just put it out there. We both work in this industry, or like with this. So it's almost like we're doing our own experiment. And for me, I was really collecting data as I was going along, and
Yes.
obviously also creating content, which, oh my God, I do have some stories about people listening to my podcast. And I posted about something on my Instagram and someone was watching me, and very dramatic, and that story. But anyway, I think it's different for us because it's like almost this is what we do. This is our profession.
Yes. Yes. I mean, obviously I started dating before I started the Instagram halfway through because I was learning that my friends who were single and other people I talked to were all miserable, but I was having a blast. And I'm like, why am I having fun and no one else is? I want to help. And my goal was to help people have fun. It still is. You know, we can't promise people partners in our work. We can't say, oh yeah, work with us, you're going to find the love of your life. Like that's anyone who says that, that's a scam. But we can help. It's like we can help you enjoy the process. We can help you not lose yourself or lose yourself to negativity in the process or anything like that. We can help you find what is in it for you. And for us, it sounds like what was in it is the experimental, the data, just trying the things we've learned in terms of communication, in terms of just all the things that come with relationships. And that's what was in it for us.
100%. Do you think that the reason you were able to have so much fun with it was because you were not attached to the outcome? You weren't attached to I need to be in a relationship next week.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that, and I would say it was a bunch of things. It was that. Also, I like talking to people. It was part of my social hygiene as someone who lived alone. I worked alone, lived alone. I'm like, I need to get out. I saw friends too. It wasn't just like I had a date every night. I saw my friends. I also had nights to myself. It's like you work 9 to 5 and then you close your computer and it's like I have the whole night, you know?
Yeah.
So also it was exploring the city. I was kind of new to Seattle where I was living at the time. And it was also, I moved during the pandemic, so everything was shut down when I moved. So dating was a way for me to learn about the neighborhoods and see different places and find new bars and restaurants that I fell in love with. So even if the date was bad, I had a great time just discovering new places.
Yeah. And I think what I love so much about what you're saying, and I think it's something that I did up until a certain point, and then 35 was looming and I started to have a little panic. But I think that it was really wearing it loosely, like that phrase of, it's just not a big deal. Like, just go on a date. And
Yeah,
like
it's
I've
really not a
mentioned,
big deal.
just go on a walk with somebody and you meet someone new. And there were times when I had situations where I'd like built expectations in my head of a date, and then I would be disappointed. And then and I say this all the time to clients, I just said to myself, okay, this isn't going to be a partner or not going to be a big love story, but what can I learn from this person? And that changed everything, because I used to really panic in the past, if I went on a bad date and I'd be stuck there, and then I was like, okay, like this person, he's not for me, but he's an architect. I remember this one specific guy, and maybe he has something interesting to share. And I just ended up having a
Yes.
nice conversation. I don't remember what I learned, but I'm sure it was something nice. And yeah, it was
Yes.
just letting go of it having to be this like very negative doom and gloom situation, and it does change everything.
100%.
You mentioned when you were speaking about the spark is something that you didn't necessarily want or was chasing. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, I look, one of the first dating books that I read in my when I was starting to date was How to Not Die Alone by Logan Ury, and she has a whole chapter called Fuck the Spark. And it basically just says the spark is I define the spark as instant attraction. And I think you can feel this platonically too. I don't think it's necessarily sexual or romantic every time. It's like you just like click with someone instantly. It's like, "Oh, we're going to be friends. Oh, we're going to get along." Or, "Oh, I'm attracted to you, like I want to bone you." Like, it's like it's like instant, but like a spark dies. It's just there for a moment and it goes away. So I knew after reading her book and also after seeing it with my own experience that the spark wasn't it. It's
Mm,
nice to have, but not a need to have. What I was looking for on the first 3 dates was, can we have a good time talking for like an hour? Do we have enough to talk about to like just have an easy flowing conversation? No, I wasn't worried about attraction. I wasn't worried about, are they husband material? I was just like, can we talk? I'm a talker. Like, can we just have a good vibe together and get into it? And can we get through 3 dates without you being creepy, rude, overly sexual,
it's a big thing in dating these
dismissive,
days. Yeah.
or lying to me? Can you get through 3 dates without doing any of that stuff? So that's what I was looking for more. And also in my work, I focus a lot on needs, and knowing what your needs are is a huge step towards finding your person and then learning how to filter for that on dates. And you can't filter
Mm.
for it 100% in the first 3 dates because some of your needs won't really or are deeper than that. But like that was what I was focused on. It's like, okay, if I sat on a date with a guy who said he's never left the country, doesn't have a passport, and never wants to, I know they're not my person because I am a huge traveler. That wasn't for me. And no shame on that. Okay, if you don't want to travel, fine. It's just not for me. So I was really that's what I was looking for more than the spark. Compatibility, and can we just vibe?
And did you ever have situations where there was a spark and then you were like, warning,
Yes.
warning signs. I don't
Are
want
you
the spark
kidding?
now.
Definitely had the spark a few times and definitely followed through on that. I ended up, look, I didn't hook up with everyone I dated, obviously, but I definitely enjoyed myself. And like, if I was
Yeah.
feeling it with someone, I definitely hook up with them and had a great time.
But yeah, I really think that the spark thing is actually a thing because I know that people say that it sometimes can be anxiety and the butterflies
Yeah,
is just
it's
anxious attachment
tension.
and yeah, it's something. Sometimes it can just be like you said, it just a click, like two people who just there's something there, there's a vibe, there's something that can't be ignored. But I definitely think that we should all hail the slow burn in relationships and the letting something grow. And I want to say that I was a huge victim to the spark because the story of me and my now husband is that we were friends before. And I think
Hmm.
the reason that we were friends and not something more was because I was like, well, there's no spark.
Right.
We tried. We went on like a we went on a kind of friend date. Didn't know what it was. Years before we actually ended up deciding to start a relationship. And when we had that, I just dismissed it and dismissed him because of the spark. And I think that's been a huge lesson for me. One of my biggest lessons in my 30s is there doesn't need to be an instant spark. There needs to be compatibility and then like you
Yes.
said, the needs match, the values match.
I didn't have a spark with my husband either.
And tell me about how that translates into the dating experience and how it developed.
Yeah, I mean, we met and he wasn't in he was moving to Seattle where I was living, and we talked for a month, but we also did video calls and we also did phone
Mm.
calls. We weren't just texting every day. Please, like, the texting is a trap. We were texting minimally, but then we would like get on the phone for like 20 minutes to an hour, like a couple times. Then we met in person just to feel it out. It took 3 in-person dates for me to feel any attraction or I would call it a click, not a spark, but it felt things clicking into place. And after that, I was like crushing on him hard. He was
It
when I
was just,
swiped.
was it just something like a barrier? And then when you went over the barrier and
Yeah,
you
it
were
was
like,
just
oh,
like,
okay, now I can
but I think for
relax.
me, and I think a lot of women can probably relate to this, to feel true attraction, like I want to sleep with this person, I want to be physically close with this person, I think we need to feel trust. And trust comes with a little time. I think expecting to feel attracted, truly attracted to a dating app profile is completely unrealistic and not what you can think someone's attractive. Okay, they have a nice face. Okay, like they have a good body, whatever it is. Oh, I like their build. Fine. But you're not sexually attracted to that person until you know them, because they can say something, one thing comes out of their mouth and completely ruin it for you. So
Yeah,
yeah.
totally. And I think that this is, honestly, firstly, the whole concept of just loads of texting before a date, especially a date from an app, is just horrendous. No, don't do it. Don't waste your time. You absolutely cannot see what somebody is like in real life. It's all about energy. Like for me,
Yes.
I would, then you create this fake expectation of what the person is based on these 6, 7 pictures that you've seen on the app. And then you meet them and it's completely different, because you can have people who are better at their dating profiles than others, but in general, it just can't come through.
It
It's
doesn't.
something physical.
So many guys I met were better looking than their pictures. Sometimes they weren't. Sometimes I got hair fished once. Like it wasn't that he was wearing a baseball cap or anything on his pictures, but he just, the angles of it just didn't show that he had a massive bald spot like in the front of his head, which again, it's just okay. Balding's fine. Just shave it. Just shave your head. It's
Yeah,
fine. I think bald guys
just
can be really
own it.
attractive. Yeah,
Just own it. Yeah.
exactly. It's like, I'm going to see it on the date. Why are you hiding this? But like most of the time though, when I met a guy on an app, that unless if the pictures were accurate, they're usually better looking than their pictures. Obviously it wasn't happen. That didn't happen every time. But for my husband, I was like, okay, I didn't see anything wrong with his profile, so that's why I swiped right. Like he didn't have any negative points. I wasn't like, "Oh my god, this guy looks so amazing. I can't wait to meet him." I was like, "There's nothing wrong here, so I might as well just reach out."
But I just love how honest you're being. And how does he feel about you sharing this? Only because I think that so much of the stuff that we hear, like online and especially on social media, is just bullshit about how people met. Honestly, even I'm like the biggest
Yeah.
advocate for the slow burn. We were friends. It was very almost like we made an agreement that we would try to start dating and just see. Like we were like, "Do you want to be in a relationship? Do you? Okay, cool." Like it was very like that.
It's so
And
fun.
even I'm still like, "Oh my God!" Like I remember like about 2 months in, or maybe it was even less, a month in, speaking to a friend and saying to her, "I just don't think this is it, because it's too boring. Like it's just not.
Yeah.
That's not how you meet someone. It has to be this fancy, big."
Story, no.
Story or this big drama or whatever. That's what had been in, because in the past for me, and I've been in many, I'm like queen of monogamy and been in many long-term relationships, the story at the start had always been, I just instantly knew. I just saw
Yeah.
him and I just knew. And then we just ended up having a 2-year relationship that never worked out in the end. But and I think that it's so easy to look at people on social media and think that's how it's supposed to be. So it's so refreshing to hear you speaking about it so honestly, because this is what we need to hear more of. The truth, the
Yes.
inside of actually meeting somebody, going out, intentionally dating, meeting people, having normal conversations, and then taking it slowly and seeing what happens.
Yes. I mean, I think when we really examine this closely, it's when you just know, it is more of a projection because you don't know them at first. You actually don't know them as a person on a first, second, third date. You know their dating self, their dating version, their the version of them they're presenting to you. It takes a while to really get to know someone, and you can't know if they're the one until you know them. And that takes time. It's not going to be on the first month of dating them. It didn't hit me that he was the one until we were 5 months in, and it was like in a
Mm.
crisis moment. And I
So
was
what
like, okay.
happened? How did you then realize, okay, like this is actually
I
my person?
we were trying to go on a hike, and I got my car stuck in the snow, and I was freaking out, and he was calm. And then I was like, you know what? I knew that to be married, to have a good marriage, you have to choose someone who you want to get through the hard times with, the bad times with. Not the good times are easy for everyone. You can have good times with anyone. It's who they are and who shows up when you are crying in your car because you can't get it out of the snow. Like and you're worried that the sun is going down, and your
You
anxiety is
panic.
just, yeah, your anxiety is exploding. And he was so calm, and he wasn't like flustered at me for getting upset. He was just like rolling with it. We both, we worked together to get the car unstuck. It all was fine. And I'm like, this is who I want by my side when shit hits the fan.
I love that. I love it because it's something I've actually been speaking a lot about since restarting the podcast after coming back from maternity leave. And it's like after being in the situation where you're growing a person and giving birth, the what you actually want from a man is so different from what I thought before. And I can honestly hold my hands up and say it. And also because it all happened to me very quickly. And I think the kindness and the calm nature of Ellie was so crucial for me with all of the things that I've been through in the past year. And I never would have thought of that. I never would have put that on my list. Somebody
Yeah.
who, yeah, it's boring to put kind, someone calm, someone who can help communicate with me and help ease my anxieties. That would be like, okay. Yeah, but I also want someone who's like, for me, my list was very sense of humor and like it was very focused on that. Like, I need somebody who's this, this, this. And I also had the nice qualities as well, but it just, now I'm
Yeah.
like flip that list right around because when
Yeah.
exactly when the hard times come and when you find yourself, hysterical crying or whatever it might be, and that other person just can
Yeah.
accept you and just hear you and see you, it's rare.
And that's why it's really important in early dating to speak up for yourself, to set those boundaries, to say no, to disappoint your date. Like if a person suggests a date idea that you don't like, push back. If you don't want to drive all the way over to them, say that. Because how they react to that is so telling. If they're like, "Oh yeah, I get you," like no worries, like, "Oh, like what will work for you? I get it." Great. But if they like get all defensive and rude, no, that's not going to work.
I agree, but I can imagine that a lot of the listeners would probably be pushing back now and saying, I already find it hard to convert, to go on a date anyway. So how can I act like that? And also the question that I get asked all the time, which I would love your insights on, is at what point do you communicate what you need or what you want and how direct should you be basically from the start?
Well, to answer the first question, if you are pushing back on a date idea or location or just any suggestion, you always have to offer your own suggestion. Like if you're rejecting an idea, you need to come with your own. You can't just say, I don't drink, so that bar isn't going to work for me. You need to say, oh, actually, I love this coffee place. Like there's a warm way to do that. To answer your second question about needs, I would say you keep your needs to yourself until and you are vetting them for them. It's like an internal dialogue. When you're in a relationship, when you're heading towards a relationship, then you can have the needs conversation. And I'm saying this from experience because I found if I shared my needs too early, then a guy would be like, oh yeah, oh, yeah, that's me. And it's like, okay, but like, is it, it's like they can just say like, oh yeah, I can be that. You're basically just telling them exactly how to act and how to be, but you need to see that they naturally show up that way.
Mm. It's such a good point that it shouldn't just be an interview. And I really think
Yeah.
that about dating as well. It can't just be like, I've got a list of questions for you and here. And that's why I really loved dating, doing different things, like going
Can
to
I share an
different
example?
events. Please do.
So one of my needs is I need someone who's ambitious and has a plan for themselves. And also I was looking for someone who'd want to make a plan with me, have goals with me and their partner. So I didn't tell my husband this, but on our third date, I was like going into the date being like, I don't know if he's ambitious. I don't understand his career plans. I don't understand what he's doing or how much he cares about his career. So I didn't tell him I need someone ambitious, but I started asking questions like, oh, you work here. What does the next 5 years look like at your company? Like I'm just being interested like that. And he started sharing so much. And I'm like, holy shit, this guy's super ambitious. He didn't know I was looking for that, but like I made sure to get that information for myself.
But
You know
that
what I
only
mean?
came out on the third date. So isn't it interesting how many people after the first date would have written someone off and said, oh, actually, they never even
Yeah.
brought up their job. So they just aren't ambitious. No, they're
And
not
I
for
guess
me.
I just realized as like looking back, it's kind of nice he didn't like brag about his work on the first date because that can be a turnoff. It's like he isn't just his work, but the more I learned about how connected he is to what he does on many levels, the more I was attracted to him. So, oh, this isn't just a job. This is like a mission. Yeah.
Yeah. So your brand is called Dating Intentionally, and obviously you have a very well-known podcast with the same title. If my audience, someone in my audience, let's say, I'm past the dating part, but somebody else wants to know, okay, I've been dating for X amount of years, it's going terribly, they're feeling that it's doom and gloom, and they want to meet somebody. They're looking for a life partner in the same way that you were looking and going on your dates. What are the main pieces of advice? I know that you have so many. And for everyone listening, you have to go and follow Talia's Instagram because it really has so many amazing carousels on there. But yeah, like where would you start with helping somebody to, yeah, just to get back
Okay.
out there and start dating?
I would start here. I would start with reflecting on your past dating experiences if you have them. Obviously, if you don't, we can talk about that. But if you've dated for a while, reflect on them and figure out which camp you're in. Are you in the camp where you are too lenient and too accepting of people and their BS? Or are you in the camp of being overly nitpicky and looking for the negatives? Because
Mm,
there's two types of daters out there. And I think women fall into one or the other. It's like
yeah.
really hard to find someone who doesn't. I think I was more in the overly nitpicky side during my intentional dating. And I had to kind of, again, I was talking about grace earlier. I kind of had to teach myself to open up. So I think that's really the first step. It's like, which one are you? And then figure out how to balance that out. So if you're overly nitpicky and that's your pattern through your reflection, on your next dates, your job is to look for positives. And for every negative you think of, find a positive. And this isn't about gaslighting yourself or tricking yourself into dating the wrong person. It is just training your brain to be more open, because the truth is, the older we get, the further we get into our dating experience, we have to be more open. And that is not the same, that's not settling. It's just literally accepting that these are the options. Find the best option. Like, find the best person you can find and stop looking and be ready to accept flaws. If you're on the other side and you're too lenient, then you're using dating to practice speaking up, setting boundaries, and rejecting people. Learn how to reject people when they do something that is kind of out of bounds, like bringing up sex really early, or like only inviting you to their place instead of on an actual date. Don't accept that. That's my advice to start. It's like you need to
Mm.
fix what you're doing first.
About the flaws thing, it was interesting what you just said. It's in a way saying there maybe isn't the most perfect match
No one is.
out
No,
there for
there
you.
doesn't exist.
And it's funny because I get asked this a lot about, oh, I'm in a relationship and I'm not sure, and I'm having some doubts, and he's really nice, and we've got all of these things, and we're going to get married soon, but I just don't know if it's the right person for me. And I never know what to say because I'm so in two different like camps with the thoughts. Because one side of me is like, don't settle. That's, a lot of what I do is very much like, I came out of a very negative relationship and was like, can't believe I almost at the age of 33 got married to somebody who was so not suitable to me, and I thank God I moved away from it. And then I'm very like, no, there's going to be someone better out there for you, and age is not a factor, just go and do it. And then the other side of me is, and especially now I'm in a relationship, is nobody's perfect, exactly like you said. And do you have a good foundation? Do you have all of the things that you're looking for, and is this going to happen with anybody that you meet? And it's like the big question, isn't it? And it's a difficult one, and I think a lot of women actually get into this question after a few months, when it becomes the time where they have to decide whether to carry on or not. And the truth is, I don't know what the right answer is.
I mean, want me to take a whack at
Yeah, please,
it?
please,
I
I
mean,
invite you.
I would say that this is again why I focus so much on knowing your core needs. And when I say core needs, it should be like 5 things. If it's 10 things, it's too many. Your core
Mm,
needs are like things you are non-negotiable. I always say they need to like meet 80% of your needs. You're never going to find 100.
yeah.
80% of your needs, and accept the rest. Everything else you
Mm.
have to accept. That's to me the rule of relationships, is that level, and that radical acceptance is where love grows. You learn, it's not just dealing with someone's flaws. It's learning to accept. You're not trying to change them. You're not trying to control them. You are truly just being like, those are your flaws. I'm living with them. And I'm choosing that. That's where love is. That is
And I'm
loving.
Wow, and I'm just smiling as you're saying it because I'm like, oh wow, I just really need to listen to this advice.
Yeah.
No, really, because I'm like that really perfectionist person who does. I'm a coach, so my whole
Yeah.
aim in life is to heal people and fix people and give people advice to be better. And then I really see it, and it comes out in my relationship. If there isn't something that's 100%, I'm like, no, come on, like, you need to do this, and it's. I love how you said that's why love is that, yeah, it's at the parts that you can't heal or fix or control
Yeah.
somebody. It's a really nice way to say it.
And if you get to this point where it's like, if I can't accept this, if I can't live with this, then you know it's not right. You don't have to love every aspect of your partner. I don't love every aspect of my husband. Like, he has flaws, he has things that annoy me. Like, every time we have a serious conversation, he has to make jokes first, and then we can get to the serious thing. And it took me a while to get used to that, but I'm like, you know what? Because we get to the serious part, and I know it's coming after the jokes. It's fine. Like, it's fine.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah. It's just
I have things too, obviously. Like, I leave my socks everywhere. I don't know. I just take my socks off. I'm like a baby. I just like leave them. Just ripping them off.
Oh my God. I'm the non-domesticated one in our relationship.
Yeah.
So it's really funny that you said that. Literally, Ellie's always like, why don't you just put anything back in it? Can't you put anything
I
back in its
don't.
original place? And I'm like, that's just not who I am. I'm really
Yeah.
sorry.
I don't. So yeah, that's where, but like our friendship, and I think again, if you back to what you were saying about the foundation of friendship, of trust, of loyalty, of respect, which is a huge one. If that's all there and you have the desire to really see it through, I think and you have the acceptance, that's like the formula there. Obviously there are deal breakers. If you're in a relationship and someone wants kids and the other person doesn't, that's not going to work. If someone
Yeah,
doesn't want to be married and you do, that's not going to work. So there are those like big headline deal breakers that are very
for
obvious that you
sure.
should not ever stay for.
And I do want to actually add to that I think that I guess the more into your 30s you are in terms of age, the more important it is to have those conversations really upfront. And
Yeah.
I know a lot of my audience really do struggle with that because there feels like a lot of pressure to be easy breezy and relaxed about wanting to start a family. But if you're 37 and dating, then it's important to not, I don't like to use the word wasting time, but to keep dating somebody and not have those big questions answered at least within,
Yeah.
I'd say, the first 3 dates to know, does this person want to have a child? And is that something they want to do in the next 3 years? Questions like that are just very crucial
Yeah.
at this stage.
And I think the desire for the fairy tale romance, it does hold us back with this. I don't think like you do not need a fairy tale romance. And I know that sounds sad and it's like I'm probably breaking some hearts right now, but you do not need that. You can create your own fairy tales in other parts of your life. It doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. You can build a wonderful companion type relationship with someone. Obviously, you're going to have sex and obviously you're going to be attracted to each other, but it's not going to be some whirlwind storybook romance. It's not.
But
It's real life.
do you get pushback from when you
Of
say
course
this
I
on your
do. Of
podcast?
course I
And
do.
what do people say?
They're just like, that's what I want that. I deserve that. I'm like, okay, you're in your late 30s and you want a kid. Maybe it's time to adjust that. Like, or be open to having a kid on your own or be
Mm.
open to not. Or, it's like there's so many other paths. And it's like, I think that when we say I want it all and only put that in the relationship box, we're doing ourselves a disservice because there are ways to get that fairy tale feeling outside of your relationship. I'm in New York right now. I'm having a fairy tale romance with my friends. I'm like running around New York, like meeting them, just having the literal best time. I feel like I'm in a rom-com, but I'm with my friends. Like, you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
let's expand our idea of the magic of our lives outside of our relationships.
Oh, I really, really love this. I think it's so true. It's so important that we can romanticize all the aspects of our life, and we just don't
Yeah.
do that. Why is
Like,
it? And I can say, as a coach who coaches women in all different areas of their life, romance and love and being single is by far the biggest concern. And
yeah.
yeah, like when did we become so overly obsessed with meeting a partner
Yeah.
instead of all the other things?
Yeah, you need to find someone who, again, wants what you want, who you can be friends with, and obviously have a great sex life with too. But I don't think the sex thing is the most important thing. I don't think the attraction is the most important thing because, like, you've been with someone for a while, like, you're not feeling it every day and you're not supposed to. Like, it's not
Yeah.
attraction isn't the thing that carries you through, it's the friendship, companionship, respect that carries you through. So that's what I think people need to focus on more.
And I agree. And I think that it just sounds so unsexy, doesn't it? Like it does sound
Yeah.
unsexy to say this.
But you can still have incredible sex. Like it's like you can still
I,
have that. It's just not 100% of the time of your life in a long-term relationship. Yeah.
just life doesn't allow you to have that. Really, I can
Yeah.
honestly say that. I think it's really difficult when we first get into a relationship and then we have all, intimacy and you have all the time in the world for it. Like I'm imagining those first few months, and it's like, yeah, of course, like wow, it's so hot and it's so this, but then
Yeah.
real life happens, and then when you move in together, sorry, that does not continue. And for some people, it does, but I
Yeah,
just
I
think
guess
it continues for longer. But yeah,
yeah, like what we're
throw a
getting at
kid
is
in the
like
mix.
you need to like them and feel love for them, affection for them longer than the honeymoon phase. After that the sparky attraction phase is over in the first few months when you're just like all over each other. It's like, okay, after that's over, like enjoy that, sure. After that's over, is what's left. That's what's going to stay with you in your marriage.
And something else has just come up for me. It's like a little bit related to this, but a slight diversion. But it's something that I run a course called The Next Chapter in Love, and it's for women in their 30s who want to build their next chapter in love. And it's not like I need to meet a life partner, but they want to date more successfully, or just feel more confident about meeting somebody and eventually to meet someone. And I think one of the things that I shared there, which all of the girls, they fed back to me that they really loved it, was that we can think that someone is a certain way because of the point in time that we meet them. But let's not forget that people change. We change over the time that you're
Yeah,
with somebody.
right.
And I used a really good example actually, because me and Ellie were friends, and he is a software engineer, and he used to work at LinkedIn. And that's like my nightmare because I'm really not into corporate and software engineers. I actually actively, when I was living in Tel Aviv, it was like, just don't date a software engineer because that's what all the men there are. And I was like, well, I'll never be with him because I used to go for musicians and creatives and, people who are extremely poor. And that was my type. I always have a joke with my friends, hot and poor. And then I had this, an Ellie. And I remember there was lots of different reasons why we were just friends. And I don't think I actually ever said it out loud, but in my head it was a little bit, he's a software engineer. And it was so funny. Now he's quit his job. We've relocated to Thailand. We're literally living the tropical jungle life together. We're like very much, he's like doing his own thing, becoming also a content creator and working for himself. And he has all these crazy dreams together with me. We're building something amazing. Imagine if I would have just been like, oh, he's just works in corporate, no thanks. Like, everybody gets to evolve
Yes.
and change, and when you cast somebody out because of like these checklist things, it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
And
no.
I think I said that in a group call, and everyone was a bit like, oh yeah, like that's why
Yeah.
dating profiles sometimes suck, because you're judging someone for something that you don't even know what they're going to go into.
Yeah. No, you don't know the whole picture. You can't capture your whole personality, like you said earlier, in 6 photos and 3 prompts. Like, it's just, I always say dating apps are a conversation starter. They're not meant to capture who you are. So that's how people should be using them. They're just getting you in the door. You're going to figure out the rest on your date. And the dating app is not responsible for that. You are.
And are you a big advocate for dating apps? I know that you met Johnny
Yes.
on an app.
Yeah. I
Were
think
most of your dates on dating apps?
yeah, not all of them. I met plenty of people in person, but I definitely, yeah, it was easiest on dating apps. I think they're great. I just think a lot of people use them wrong and like to blame them. And yes, no, they're not perfect. Yes, they've taught us behaviors that suck and people are not treating each other very well. But I think if you use them as just a virtual bar with everyone has a name tag to just, you have to introduce yourself to people and get talking, you're responsible for what happens after you match with someone. The app is not responsible for those bad dates. Those people exist on and off the apps. You know what I mean? Like the
Yeah.
person who's rude to you on the dating app messages, you could meet them in person too. They're there. So that's not the
Yeah,
day.
I think that apps have got a really bad rep,
Yeah.
and
They're
it's
not great. I'm
getting
not
worse
going to,
and worse.
I don't think they're going anywhere. I just think there's a way to use them properly with, like, again, like more resilience,
Yeah.
less like lower your expectation, eliminate your expectations. You're just getting in the door to have a message, to have a conversation and get to the date. That's it.
Yeah, and also if you're somebody who doesn't like dating apps, stop hating on them and go out
Yeah.
and meet people in
Yeah,
real
you don't
life.
have
That's
to
what
use
I
them.
always say. That
Yeah.
I had lots of success on the dating apps. I actually didn't meet Ellie on the app, but yeah, like I had a lot of success with them, so I use them. And sometimes you go through periods of months when they're really frustrating and annoying, and you have lots of bad stories. But in general, they are really helpful. So yeah.
Yes.
Just to finish off, I feel like
Hmm.
I have so many questions for you because there's so many pills of wisdom. That's what I was trying to say.
Thank
I
you.
feel like you have so many pills of wisdom that I want my audience to hear. But I guess I'll just finish by asking you if there was a couple of pills of wisdom and a couple of bits of dating advice for women who are in their 30s and single, what would they be?
I think the number one thing that we didn't talk about is being the chooser. So stop trying to be chosen. Stop trying to use the lens of are they choosing me and flip it to do I want to choose them. It's way more empowering, and you're going to have a much better time dating when you are the chooser versus just trying to pick from who's going to choose you. And I think also being the chooser puts you in a place of showing interest, which in 2025 men want to see interest from you too. Okay, this isn't about you leading or making the first move every single time, but they need to see warmth and interest and curiosity from you too. Today's guy wants that. And I don't think that's wrong. Like, people are like, well, it's like, not, this isn't a transaction. And I think a lot of people treat dating like a transaction. So I think that's my
Mm,
first tip is be the chooser,
love it.
know what you want, go make the first move, go reach out to men who could have that. Don't wait for men to come to you. Go talk to them. Like, what are we doing? Stop waiting, you know?
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is continuing to invest in your life, not centering men, romance aside. What is your life? Are you building a life you love? And you're trying to make your life where it's like the person you bring into it will add to it. It's not going to make, they're not your sole source of happiness. They can't be. That's not a healthy relationship setup. So make sure that you are taking care of the different parts of your life that make you feel fulfilled, that are not centered around men.
Amen. I think that's really amazing advice. Where can people find you if they want to learn
Yes.
more about what you do?
I have a podcast called Dating Intentionally, and you can slide into my DMs anytime on Instagram at dating.intentionally.
You really all need to go and check out Talia's Instagram. It's honestly, I've spent many hours there, like swiping through and looking at everything. So thank you so much for coming on. It's been so good to chat. All things dating is my favorite topic. So
thank you so much.
I'll see everybody on the podcast.